All right, so welcome back. This is going to be part 2 of the Hoffcast, focused on the story of Retox. And yes, how are we going to start this second half? We want to punch some questions out for these guys.
Yeah,
before they run off.
In this second half, we thought that we'd focus a little bit on sort of like favorite moments and memories that you had, not necessarily good and bad, but really like the standout good memories that you have.
What would you like to relive? The one moment or day that you want to relive?
Yeah, if you could pick one day in the history of Retox, one full day to relive, what would it be?
First thing that comes to mind. Should probably.
I was thinking of the phrase that we spoke about recently: always working, never working.
What do you mean by that?
Good.
I can't tell the story correctly. It's just like a vague memory of it was a Sunday night, always the Jaeger train, huge night, and stripper, one of our best friends, my Facebook husband. At some point he'll be passed on to his wonderful girlfriend, hopefully fiance. Well, we'll wait for that. And we go for a post Jaeger train speech in the man cave, and he's there with a mop, like swinging it from side to side against the wall, which is a mural, and he's like, always working, never working. Always working, never working. It was the same speech where, was it Jake's? Who was it who fucking told some story about doing a walking tour and peed in front of the basilica? I was like, you motherfucker, I'm not proud of you. You are bad. But that guy, always working, never working. Wonderful, wonderful.
So that would, for you, would have been your favorite day.
No, like you put me on the spot. You didn't, like you were out there for 20 minutes having a smoke and didn't give me one chance.
Well, I mean, you know, we kind of wanted to keep things candid, you know? Like with these things, it's good to not have questions rehearsed. We need to know what the questions are. You don't.
Fine. Well, then you get a shit answer.
You're asking questions that beg for a little time. I mean, you're trying to
I know, we'll put you on the spot.
9 years of days. Like, because every day is ludicrous. Every day in Retox was crazy. Every day could potentially have been the best day in someone's life, right? So, like, our best memories, dude, like, a top to bottom day would have been so ridiculous. Like, I've had, there's Jaeger train days that were the best ever.
Just check to see if your mic's on, bro.
I think it is now.
There you go.
There was Jaeger train days that were the best. There was karaoke days that were the best. We used to do a barbecue every Sunday. The Sunday barbecues were the best. There was days where the hostel was basically shut down, but we'd have a small group in. That was wild. There was this guy Rico who came in one time for his bachelor party. It was the first time I've seen Susie fall in love with someone and then completely disgusted with the same human an hour
45
later.
minutes.
What? You gotta tell us this. How did this happen?
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. You
Come
fall in
on,
love.
Suze.
Last
I will.
Started it, like this beautiful guy.
Yeah.
Like long curly hair. He comes in. Maybe a bit of beard, I assume so.
Yeah, a little bit.
No,
5 o'clock
you-
shadow.
Yeah.
Right? Beautiful, beautiful human being. And I'm on the balcony looking down. I'm like, oh, it's one of Iggy's mates. Iggy is an Adonis as well.
Absolute
He's-
Adonis.
Yeah. His previous husband before stripper. And I'm like, oh, this guy is so fucking beautiful. Drinking champagne, like, middle of the fucking day. Not champagne, obviously. $5 bubbles with Tits McGee. And we're like, wow, that guy's so fucking hot. And we just watch over the balcony into the courtyard as Smike will tell you what transpires to be.
They fell apart as humans. But we saw the de-evolution of humanity and with 5 guys. So these are Iggy's mates, and he's like, no one's staying in the hostel. There's no furniture downstairs. Retox's courtyard is completely empty except for one table. We brought a shisha out for them, and then we're just drinking booze. I don't remember why that was the situation, but it doesn't matter. They were by themselves. They started drinking. They all seemed like nice guys, salt of the earth, good dudes. And then, you know, you're 5-6 drinks in, the clothes start coming off, which is fine. It's a real Australian thing. Shirts have to come off. No one's ever wearing shoes to begin with. And then I don't remember the first thing that turned me a little bit. Might have been one of them spitting in this guy's face. Because one of the rules of the day was that all of them could spit on the groom. Like, just spit in his face, spit on his chest, spit anywhere on him, and he'd just take it. You go, okay, that's weird. That's a weird rule. Then they talked about this festival they went to, and I can't remember what it was. Maybe remember they would play these weird games, and it was kind of like a one-up kind of a thing. See who could be the craziest person. You know, they were drinking vomit and doing all kinds of weird shit. And I remember listening to the story going, why would anyone want to do this? I didn't say this out loud. These are friends of friends, but it sounded disgusting. And right around then, they started to get naked. All of them, except the groom. But they put the groom on his back, on the ground. And they would stand over him. And I'm like, oh, are they going to piss in his face? No, they didn't.
No.
They squatted over him, and they poured beer down their back so it would drip down through their anus, through their balls and their asshole into his mouth. And I think, I was like watching it, and you look up, and Suze is upstairs, and I think that was the point where I go, she's not interested.
That's it. Game over.
Yeah. It was pretty
in
much
the black and white world of Suze Collings. You're either a legend or an absolute shitbag.
That's it. I went
That's when he went from legend to shitbag.
From hero to zero almost immediately.
All it took was a little bit of beer trickling down a well-oiled anus.
Really nice guys. We smoked a bunch of shisha. We had a bunch of laughs, and then I left going, these dudes are weird. I'm out. Like, this is. But stag groups have that. Like I said, I said earlier, I saw one stag suck his friend's dick when he was supposed to be getting married. That was weird. We've had, unfortunately, you get the bad side of stags too. They bring in like really questionable strippers. And it gets ugly. This is the ugly side of like party hustles, which we brought to an end at some point. I think we made a point after a while, because here in Hungary, you can have there's a bunch of like strip club companies or whatever, and stag companies that will send out women or guys or whatever to do certain things. At a point though, you start to feel like this isn't positive. The person who's coming, I know that's their job, but you're just demeaning them, and I'm thankful that like we put an end to that a few years ago. Like it's not part of like what we want to be associated with.
So you stopped allowing stag groups to
we said no.
Like
and bring all that
roly-poly
in.
girls and shit. It's like, it's not cool.
Mate, I met that roly-poly stripper. I've worked with her. I've had many, many chats with her. She is actually a fucking legend. Like,
course
you
she
have
is.
not met anyone in your life with more iron solid confidence and self-esteem than that woman.
I get it, but like, it's
Wait.
it's what we want to do. It's like Karl Malone had that phrase, "You'll never be this free again," and we want to promote the promiscuity and the do whatever you want, be whomever you want to be. That's absolutely cool, but we also want to respect people. And I think especially the last few years, the awakening nature of consensuality and just fucking want to do it, own it, want to do it, and we want to be behind that. So a lot of things that happened in the past that were okay in the past, not cool, and we wanted to stand behind that and just say, no, we're just going to draw the line. And the roly-poly chick, she was lovely, she was wonderful, but we don't want a bunch of guys standing around laughing going, oh, it's a fat chick. It's not cool. We want people to say, she's cool, she's got nice tits, or she's curvy or whatever, want to do her anyway, but like not to make a mockery of it.
Yeah, it does often. I mean, like the reason why stag groups do, like the best man does end up ordering the roly-poly stripper, which for anyone who doesn't know what a roly-poly stripper is, imagine the biggest, fattest stripper you've ever seen in your life. Like you look at this woman and you think, who would pay for that? I'll tell you who pays for it. People who want to play a prank on the stag. And sometimes the stag ends up being horrified. Sometimes he fucking loves it. Sometimes he gets up off his chair. He's like, fuck that. I'm not taking this. And most of the time there's at least one guy in the crowd who will sit on the chair and be like, all right, ride me to the moon. I want it. Give me everything you got. So at the end of the day, this woman always ends up leaving with a smile. I've never seen her walk away thinking, I wish I'd never come to this group. Like she always ends up making the most of it. But there is something to be said for the negative side of hosting groups like stag groups. And I feel like when you're running a party hostel that, has close to 100 beds, is oftentimes when you have more than one stag group in the hostel at once. And that's when the pissing contest really starts, because then you have stags competing within themselves, within the group, and then with each other, between stag groups, trying to be like, trying to determine who's gonna be the biggest man, who's gonna walk away with the craziest story, who's gonna be the ultimate king, the ultimate notorious legend of Retox. And I think you probably spot these guys as soon as they come in, don't you? Like, as soon as you get a group of rowdy ass cunts walking in, you're like, all right, here we go again. But putting a more positive spin on it, what about the really, really good ones? You spoke earlier about the first time that you met Smike, and that thrill that you get when you got a new guest arriving. You don't know who they're going to be, and you're so curious to see like who they're going to be, what kind of personality they're going to bring to the table, what they're going to add to the vibe. Who for you, like who, if you can pick out like a couple, or like the first ones that come to mind, like the most memorable guest arrivals that have happened in Retox over the years?
Entries, yeah.
We started a thing called Alcohol Olympics a few years ago. My friend Willie came up with it. He was working at the bar, and I was like, we need crazy things here, because the hostels are going out every night, but we need a reason for them to stick around. And he's like, what about a drinking competition, but it's based around the Olympics? So we started this thing called Alcohol Olympics. The first one we ever did, there was a 65-year-old guy named Ian from the UK in it. Ian's come back dozens of times. He's a brilliant guy. His name's Ian Routledge. I'll absolutely shout him out because he's a fucking legend. The first one we ever had, we had 3 teams in it. Now, at full capacity, it's 12 teams of 3 people on a team. We had 3 teams the first time ever. There was 3 Hungarians called Team Bitch. They couldn't drink, so at the end of every round, they would just pour beer all over their tits, and it was basically a wet t-shirt contest for them, which everyone fucking loved. Then there was these 2 other teams. One team had, I think the kid's name was Chris. He had 1 leg. And he was like, I'm in, let's do it. We're like, you want some help? He's like, nah, man, I'm great. And he was a fucking legend. His team was in it. And then Ian, who was 65. We're like, dude, you sure you want to do this? And he just ripped his shirt off. He's like, fuck, I love this shit.
Wait. What is
Alcohol Olympics?
What do they have to do, just quickly?
So Alcohol Olympics is a tournament of drinking. So we have 4 stages plus a runoff tournament. So the first stage is you have to share a stein of beer with straws. Round 2 is Strapedos, which is a Bacardi Breezy, which you put a bendy straw in it and do it for time. Round 3 was quarters. You have to bounce quarters in a glass after you do a Jaeger bomb. And then after that, we had the double waterfall, basically. So you drink a beer. Everyone drinks a beer. It goes back to the first person. They drink a mixed drink. And you do it everything for time. If you're in the top 4, well, if you're in the first one, you just go right to the finals. But if you're in the top 4, when it's a full 12-person team, you go to a flip pong tournament. And then the winner is the winner. Unless the number 1 seed loses the tournament, and then we go to a thing that's called the Gauntlet. Because if you've won all the way through, but you lose the tournament, you should have a chance to redeem yourself, and it's called the Gauntlet. You can find this online. It's well documented. In fact, there's these college students from, I think it was Amsterdam, that took it back to Amsterdam, and now they do it all the time. And they run the same rules we do. So it's pretty. It's high praise. Like I'm very proud of it, and obviously my buddy Willie, who came up with most of it, is like I'm very, very proud of it. Susie can tell you about the extreme edition we did only once, which was basically everything I just said except double strength. It was one and only done.
So we had friends who wanted to do Alcohol Olympics, but they had real jobs. So they're working Monday to Friday. Like, when can we do it on a Friday? Because it's usually on a Wednesday. I'm like, funny you should say that, because Willie Cyclops is planning a new one on the Friday. Yeah, sweet. It happens to be when Grandio Bar reopened for the summer. So everyone's at Grandio in the courtyard, drinking all fucking day, drinking games. I'm like, yep, cool, we got this, we got the teams, let's go. Alcohol Olympics Extreme is what Willie says, Cyclops says. I'm like, what does that mean? It's like, oh, it's the same, just a little bit harder. Everyone's been complaining that it's too easy. I'm like, who's complaining that it's too easy? No one's complaining.
People.
No one's complaining. He wanted the challenge. Okay, fine. I don't know what it meant. We get there and everyone's freaked out by this extreme shit and the fact that everyone's been drinking at the bar all day. So we get there and there's only 2 teams. And I'm like, this is bullshit. I haven't eaten. This is bullshit. There's only 2 teams. That means like the second place is the loser. There should be a 3rd team. Hey, Danish boy, give me some money, you're on my team. Hey, whatever boy, you're on my team. So we sign up the third team. In the question of who won Alcohol Olympics Extreme, the answer is nobody won, including the spectators. It was the worst event we have ever done.
I saw someone vomit what looked like blood on someone dressed as Pikachu. It was terrifying. So it didn't last long. But here's the thing. I remember that first one. I remember the excitement in everyone's eyes. And like we're talking about a room with 12 people in it just having drinking challenges. And I remember the love. I remember people feeling like I'm in something. There was local like Hungarian girls in one team. There was a 65-year-old, guy from the UK, and no one looked at anyone like, you don't belong. Everyone was like, this is great. We're doing this.
Wow.
Like, I have lots of memories of that. Name a night that Retox had, and I have an experience, whether it's a quiz night. We had a room called Narnia. I have more beautiful memories in that room than almost any room in the whole company.
Wow.
It's my second favorite place in all of VPH. And
your first?
What's your favorite?
the Rave Cave.
Oh, yes.
The Rave Cave is by far a place that I've had more transformational moments in my life. Like I felt, and it's super cheesy, I've never felt cooler than being in that room at certain moments in my life. I've also never felt more dangerous than at a certain point in my life. I've never felt more, free, which is a big thing for us. I've also never felt more like, how is any of this possible? All of those things happened in that room at different times, and almost some of them, all those moments might have happened in one night, and multiple different occasions. I think the whole Budapest Party Hostel and the city has always made me feel like anything's possible, and I still feel like that's possible. That's why I'm still here, which is really nice, because I know everything's kind of fucked up now, and it's not just here, it's everywhere. It's fucked up everywhere, but this will end. We will go somewhere, and I want to believe that this city still has that Wild West feeling that I can do whatever the fuck I want. I can push the envelope, and I can make something really strange that brings people together. Not so much a kind of voyeur thing where, oh, look at them doing weird shit, but again, we had this beautiful bubble. I don't think that's going to go away. I think there's always going to be a need for people to be together. If we learn anything from this, it's that we are social animals, and that when we can be together, we are at our best, and we will be again. So I look forward to that again. The Rave Cave is beautiful. It's done. Retox was beautiful. It's done. Will there be an iteration of it in the future? Of course it will, because where people can meet, people will have these experiences, and I'll be there. So.
Wow.
All right. So was this Ian Routledge the oldest guest you've ever had at Retox? Or, because you guys have an age limit, right? You put in an age limit of no one
He's
over
one of the
40
reasons-
in theory, but you sometimes make exceptions for certain
Of
people
course,
that you
we
like look at
always
them and
make
you're like,
exceptions. The thing was a guideline. We only put the age limit in from the Carpe days, where we never used to have one, and then because we had orthopedic mattresses, that was a big buzzword for people who were over 70 years old. And then we had the era of the pensioners, and we're like, oh, I don't think this is right for like a party hostel. Like, it's cool. What do you say to people? So we had to change it and put in an age limit. But obviously we're not ageist. Like, age is a fucking bullshit number. And I knew that when we put the age limit in at 36, and then I started approaching it and I increased it to 39, and then I was like, oh shit, like, it's just gonna happen, isn't it? So
yeah, because you're all pushing 40 this year. You're all turning 40 this year.
Thanks,
so
yes.
no.
Yes. Awesome for you to remind
just
us.
put that in there. I mean, I'm more letting the audience know. I'm pretty sure you're all very, very much aware of how old you are, but just to put it into context, your age limit was 40, and now looking at it from the viewpoint of people.
Can we say at other hostels? No, thank you. Appreciate it.
But we always said to people, like, this is just a guideline. We just want you to know this is what the atmosphere is going to be like. Are you okay with that? We want you to be comfortable. We want them to be comfortable. Again, going back to the earlier thing of sex and stuff, we want people who are 18 years old to feel comfortable getting changed in their room and not worrying about older people they think are going to be creepers. So after a certain point, we would say, do you mind staying in a private room? We think it's only appropriate in a youth hostel that if you're a gentleman above a certain age, can you stay in a private room? Cool. or we would just direct them into
Yeah.
rooms that are not.
Ian
Young people
Rutledge,
can be
though.
just as creepy.
I know you.
Yeah. Ian Rutledge was a pioneer for a couple of things. Obviously, he was in Alcohol Olympics, but we wrote to him and we're like, listen, there's going to be people having sex in the room. There's going to be people vomiting, pissing, maybe shitting on your bed. Like, here's something that BP Budapest Party Houses has never shied away from telling people more truth than they need to know. Like we did our best to show people the most uncomfortable it could be, so that they knew. Like, we don't want anyone shocked. They come in and be like, "Oh my God, someone shit on my bed." Okay, we don't want that. But, under the weird circumstances of party hustles, stuff like that's happened. So there's emails that go out to everybody. So I remember we wrote to Ian Rutledge, 60 years old, and said, hey, there'd be young people fucking in your room, shitting all over the place, vomiting, maybe piss on you, your stuff. And he wrote back, why do you think I want to stay there? And we're like, all right, man, cool. But we also told him when he came in, listen, obviously you're an older guy. If it's going to be anything uncomfortable, we're going to let you know. We're going to put you in your own room. And he's like, 100%. His third or fourth trip back, he started to get the private room at Retox. Because he's like, I get it. It's a different kind of a place. I want to come, I'll take the private room. But let me tell you, like, when you're in a hostel, that and you're 18, 19, you're not good at meeting anybody, you sit there and you drink your drink and you don't know what to do. Ian goes to the bar, gets a tray of shots, and walks around and says, hey, what's your name? Great, have a shot. Let's be friends. And he did that every time he came around. He was this, like, binding kind of fiber, which is, that's hosteling. That's it.
He had, for me, something that I really wanted to roll out to all of the guys, but I did, because he had this tribal thing that we spoke about in the last session. But he's like, no man left alone. And it really resonated with me that if you see somebody on their phone alone in the courtyard in a bar, they don't want to be on their phone alone. If they could do that, they want to be in the bed. If they're there, they're reaching out for people to interact with them. And if you don't take that opportunity to say, hey, what are you doing? Like, do you want to join me? And that's all it takes. And Ian Rutledge was a real, affirmation of what I already thought. I was like, they want to fucking play. They want to interact. Just let them do it. All you have to say is, do you want to have a drink? Done. And they're in. And it's... Yeah.
It's a long way to get to the answer of the best moments are like when you saw someone who wanted to belong and they got brought in. Those are always the best moments. When you see someone who's changed, and man, tens of thousands of people come through one way and they leave another way, or they stay for a long time and they leave a different way. That opening, that flowering, because it really is. I think a lot of people feel in party hostels that you have this, you're running away from something, and some people just don't know who they are yet, and you get to blossom here.
Have you seen people discover themselves?
Come on, that's why you do it. That's why you keep doing it. People absolutely come into their own. It's amazing, but at the same point, I think there is a point where you go, okay, well, wait, real life is different than this. You got to remember that. You see people who don't have a whole lot of confidence, who don't really like themselves, who've never had any positive influences in their lives, and they become bigger than life. But I think the problem here in Neverland is when you give people the keys to the kingdom, if they don't know how to act responsibly with that, it can go wrong. And so I think that's a big responsibility for people who work in this industry to make sure that people blossom, but then realize, like, to use like a Spider-Man thing, with great power comes great responsibility. Because you really are. I used to say this when people would like work for us. I would try to talk them out of the job. And say, you're going to be, our lowest level used to be called a house bitch. We changed it, but, times change. But we wanted to turn people off. Like, you're a house bitch. You're going to clean toilets. You're going to clean vomit. You're going to clean piss, cum. You know what a cum drain is? And I would tell them what that is, which is the shower drain. Basically, you have to clean because everyone has sex or jerks off in the shower, and it's disgusting. But, like, that's you. When you say, like, listen, if I need batteries in the middle of the night, you're going to go do that. Like, that's the deal. It's not hazing as much to say, like, you're about to become a rock star. Everyone who comes here is going to trust you and love you and believe everything you say. You have to earn that right, because you represent not only the company but the city. Like Budapest is my home. It's really important. If you don't take it seriously and you don't act in the best interest of the city, fuck the hostels. It doesn't matter. Like, this is our home. Like, we are already on borrowed time because we're not from here, you know? So, like, we have to be better than everybody else. So you have to be better than everyone else, and you have to be better than every other hostel that's ever been, you know? Like, so, and what do you get for that? You get everything. Everyone will love you. Everyone will trust you. Everyone will remember you, and for the rest of their life, when they talk about the greatest time they've ever had, your name will come up. All I'm asking is you do literally everything that you can to make them have the greatest time of their life. That's it. It's a big responsibility, but not everyone can handle it. And I think we've seen that, again, I don't want to bring up ugly sides, but in the hosteling game, as with the rest of life, when you're given too much, you have to really pay attention to, like, the responsibility of it. We've had, I'd say, well more than not people do it the right way. And unfortunately, we've had some people that didn't. And then in any business, you got to let some people go because they're not there for the right reason. So, but overall, man, people change for the best. And you know what? When you say goodbye to someone who is changing for the best, it makes it easier because it's one of those hard things in hosteling. You say goodbye to thousands of people, and you know, if you're in the game long enough, I'll never see them again. Most likely. But do they leave better than when they came in, or do they have a more sense of who they are? And almost unequivocally they do. And that's, it takes away the pain of saying goodbye to someone that you absolutely love and adore.
You'll never be this free.
I think I've been to 6 weddings around the world from people who met in hostels.
Wow.
6.
How many kids?
Heaps.
Lots of kids.
Not always planned. You know, that's cool.
Usually not planned, I would
You're
say.
never
Most
free,
of the ones that I know, yeah, right? Freedom comes at a price sometimes, but...
But that, you know, that's an interesting thing because it's such a, you know, free, promiscuous, whatever life. But people find, you know, the like-minded people, and they find the comfort and just the real companionship here.
Has anyone proposed at Retox?
Oh,
At Retox, like at the hostel, at the bar.
there was that
For
time
real
that Kelsey
weddings?
didn't let that guy in, those people in.
Yeah.
What?
There's been a lot of fake ones. I mean, like, I don't know, how real is the Siget Festival wedding? Not real.
Not real.
Not very at all. I mean, like, they do make you sign a contract that says that you can't be with anyone else until the end of Seagate, but that's
That's it,
about
yeah.
as real as it gets.
I had 2 1 year. No, there was one
You had
time.
2 1 year.
There was one time
You
Kelsey, Kelsey was working. She had this couple like trying to check in. She's like, you don't have reservations. She tried to like send them away, and it turned out that they were married because they had met the year before in Retox Bar, and
Wow.
she was like, oh shit, we got them a private room, got them a bottle of champagne, whatever. But yeah, so we've had a definite real marriage anniversary.
Yeah.
Fake ones.
We've had a lot of people meet. I mean, that's I feel like that's pretty cool to have people meet from literally different parts of the world in one place, and then they decide to spend the rest of their lives together. Like, what are the odds of that? Like, really?
Well, it
You come
goes back
to
to a conversation that I remember having with you, Suze, years and years ago, about a theory that you had formed over the years about how hostels are one of the best kind of dating platforms, because the way that people choose a hostel, you know, they, like you said, Smike, you read through the descriptions, you know, like you don't just choose a hostel based on the location, the price, and the rating. A lot of people do, but for the people who are the more seasoned travelers, they really read through the description. They really try and like get the personality of the hostel from the description, what they write on their profile, and you know, whatever hostel they gel with, right? There's a reason why they gel with that, and so everyone else who is, you know, like-mindedly chosen that hostel, that it says something about the kind of vibe and the kind of personality and values that you are drawn to.
It's also the recommendations, you know, when you're the traveling community is
personal
always like,
recommendations
you know, you meet these people, you like them, I meet you, I like you, where did you come from, where are you going to? Cool. I trust you now more than anything else is on the internet. Because then I'll go there, hope to meet another person like you, they'll send me to the next people. So automatically you're channeling yourselves into these are trusted people that I really enjoy their company, and that's, you know, why you want to travel. You want to see the place, you want to experience everything, but it's about those connections. And so when you're doing that, all of a sudden you're just getting like, I'm funneled into like my ideal people. And we're all traveling, and you're from there and I'm from there, and we believe the same things. Next minute, bang bang, two
I mean, it's
children.
kind of the same way that, Google stores all your information and then recommends things to you based on, what you've liked before and what your friends have
Thank
liked,
you so
except in a
much.
much less insidious way, and none of your data is stored anywhere in the cloud. So it's a lot better
No
overall.
one remembers anything about you because I'm always too drunk. It's fine.
It's great. It's great. All your data is washed for life.
Yeah.
There's no cloud. There's no nothing. What happens at Retox stays at Retox. Apart from nicknames. Now, we've mentioned a lot of nicknames. We've mentioned Sibo,
Milk.
we've mentioned Stripper, Milk, Cyclops. This is kind of a habit that you guys formed over the years. I always kind of had suspicions as to why it became a thing, and then I just realized, you know what, it just became a thing because it became a thing, because it's fun. Nicknames are fun. It allows people to be
No.
different.
No, what do you
different
mean?
personas.
Schmike. It was
But-
all Schmike, for
No,
sure.
Schmike was the first nickname. What?
No. Like, it was definitely...
I was not for one of the first nicknames. Susie was running her business before I met her, and there was nicknames of people. I cannot remember names.
Yeah. I'm the same, man. I'm the
so-
same. When it comes to students at school and that, like, I would rather give them a nickname so
That's
I know
it.
exactly what that
F-word.
name is.
So that was 100% it. Everyone, like, once I was in charge of one of Susie's properties, that was it. I had to do it. Listen, there's some, you know how many Aarons there are from fucking Australia?
Aaron.
The whole country is Aaron. Do you know how many Matts there are in the world? There's so many. We just started saying M1, M2, M3, M4. I mean, like, so yeah, nicknames had to be a thing. Also, a nickname is, when you're living in this Peter Pan world, you need a nickname.
Yeah.
For two reasons. One, again, your boss can't remember your real name. Two, when do you guys have an alter ego when you're drunk?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is your alter ego because you're not, this is most people's vacation work. It's a chance to travel longer. Maybe it's your home for a while, but like, what are we talking? A year, 2 years? If you're a hostel worker, I mean, there is a deadline on how long you can do this. So this is your acronym. This is what you go by. This is your thing. When you leave, you can continue the moniker on, or you can say that was a part of my life, and now Peter Pan grew up and I've moved on. So it helps because, like I said before, not everyone comes stable, ready to go, and it's such a, I can't stress this enough, to see someone change from when they felt like they were nothing at home, they were unseen. And then people see them here. They grow into that name and they embody it and they love it. That doesn't mean it's a good name. We've had some awful names.
What are the worst? What are the best and worst nicknames that you've had over the years? Just pick one. Best in your mind and worst, for whatever reasons.
Houdini and Rubs is the best, in my opinion.
Houdini Rubs.
Houdini,
and
Rubs.
Rubs.
Oh,
Yeah.
Houdini and Rubs. The two different. Okay.
Because these particular people hooked up and the condom came out into her. So for him, it disappeared, Houdini. And Rubs, it was in her.
So it was a couple nicknames.
Yeah.
Houdini Rubs.
Houdini and Rubs.
That's a pretty good one. Can't beat
Frame
that, really.
cunt is the worst. And
I don't know,
Frame
Mr.
Cunt-
Phone.
Oh my gosh, so Mr. Phone. Oh.
There was a
Mr.
point.
Phone.
There was a point towards the end of Grandier where there were so many people want the job, and you have to make a nickname for everyone. No one's called by their real name. There's only a handful of people ever in the company get their real name. So at one point, this guy named Oz, who was running the hostel at the time, said, "We just decided the next person we hire is going to be called Mr. Phone."
No, he was like the nicknames are terrible. Like, oh, what? So the next guy comes through is going to be called Mr. Phone.
So they did it. They did it. The next guy that came back, they hired him to call him Mr. Phone.
What was his real name?
I don't know. I just said I'm not bad at names.
White guy with dreads.
Yeah, Mr. Phone. So yeah, that was
Guy with
fun.
dreads.
Yeah, nice.
We I liked when I used to work at Vitae, and I would give awful nicknames to people because I always thought it was funny to introduce them to other people.
Yeah.
So Kyle Malone, who's been here for like
Yeah,
8 years, I've given him 3 or 4 nicknames. So the first nickname I ever gave him, I think I called him Garbage Dick. That was his first one. Or McNasty. McNasty, maybe, and then Garbage Dick. I remember the first day, because you're not allowed to not use it. Like, if I say that's your nickname, you gotta run with it. Like, if you're the boss, you can't tell your boss, no, that's not. It's like improv. There's no saying no. So I remember he was checking someone in, and I was like, oh, you met Garbage Dick. That's amazing. Really nice guy. Like, all the ladies love him. And I just walked away. That didn't last. He didn't like it. We moved from Garbage Dick to McNasty, or McNasty Garbage Dick, and then I called him K-Fed, because everyone had heard of Kevin Federline, which is called K-Fed, which doesn't matter. It's an old school thing. But so one time he was checking someone in. They're walking up the stairs. I'm like, oh, K-Fed's checking in. It's amazing. You know why he's called K-Fed? He's addicted to ketamine. Can't even piss standing up anymore. Anyways, good luck. I'll see you later. And I just walked away. That didn't last. He had a nickname for a while. We called him Brooks. Because it's the one thing he agreed to, because if anyone's watched Shawshank Redemption,
Brooks the old guy.
Brooks the old guy who like carves his name and then hangs himself. That's not why. But he's institutionalized. Kyle Malone one time was like, man, I'm institutionalized. You know, I've just been here so long. And I was like that guy Brooks from whatever who killed himself. And he's like, that's not that bad. So he was Brooks for like one generation of hostel workers. And then when they all left, he just went back to Kyle Malone. But
yeah, he's the one guy that I know of who, like, right until the end, just like people still call him Kyle Malone.
Kyle Malone.
You recently started calling him Bin Juice, but I feel like
Oh,
for me,
that's right.
that really
Bin
caught
Juice,
on.
that was a Bolter thing,
Yeah, that was a Bolter thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
everyone's tried to give him a thing, because he's unnamed givable. That's the deal. It's hilarious to try everything. You want to try with the guy who is resistant the most, and that's him, 100%. But he's a legend in the business. For a lot of the great reasons, and also for talking shit on him all the time. He's terrific. He's one of the best drunks in the business. One of the best drunks of all time. His drunk is legendary because he's fun. He's like there's lots of characters out there, but a lot of drunk people are uglier versions of themselves. He's the most captivating individual when he's drunk, and the most loving, well more loving than when he is in normal life, which is really fun to see. If anyone knows Cal Malone, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Wrestly as well. Wrestly?
Oh, he gets wrestling when he's drunk.
He tries to choke everyone out.
Yeah.
I know some people like that. Yeah, I feel like
that.
that is an alcohol type. That is a drunk type. The wrestling drunk type.
The wrestling.
Yeah, no, I feel like that's a category into itself. People that just really want to wrestle.
Yeah.
But
Your brother, actually.
my brother, my older brother came here. He's never really been a big partier. He's an engineer, and he came out here. And there's something about this, like, American masculinity, and he just when he gets drunk, he's like, I'm gonna wrestle that guy.
It is always Americans, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sure, like it's Americans always get wrestled.
It's a weird
Every
masculinity
wrestler
that we have. I don't feel
the Aussies do it too, I reckon.
No, I feel
you're
like it's an
right.
American thing. I feel
You
like
guys get naked first.
I feel like Australians have taken it on from Americans just to try and show them they can be better. But going back, just quickly summing up on the nicknames one. Who that you know of still carries their nickname now in their real life, having gone back home?
That's a great question.
I know Ballsack, surprisingly enough, was a nickname
Ballsack.
He's a different
that
kind of animal.
carried on.
He's a different animal.
Ballsack continued to be him going back. That's
Yeah, that's interesting. So, like, he developed this character here, and then he took that back home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he ran with it so well. He went immediately back. A lot of people when they leave here, they're like, "Phew, need a break from the party hostel scene." He's like, "Is there a party hostel here? Cool. I'm in." And he just dress up nights, theme party nights. He's still doing it. He's
stripping.
Yeah,
pole
just
dancing.
absolutely himself.
Wow.
Authentically ridiculous.
Wow.
Which is
I'll say, like, if Ronsky had a name, but that's his name. It's his real name. The craziest human that's ever been.
He is, yeah. I thought he would have come up by now.
Ronsky.
Yeah. Ronsky's
Oh, you met him.
he's the most famous hostile person in the world. I'm gonna say that. He's the most famous person who's ever stayed in hostels in
Like
Europe.
that guy that everyone who's worked the hostel circuit knows or has heard about.
He is.
The name,
He is world famous.
no matter where you go in the world.
His name is Daniel
Daniel
Ronsky.
slaps
And
people on the ass with raw strips of bacon, waterboards people, takes his taser gun out and starts tasering himself
There's a
other
lot
people.
extra to
He's on
him.
making
I did a
people
podcast with him
Retox.
once,
Yeah.
What was that?
and I couldn't air it. But that's it. I can't tell you more. Couldn't air it.
Wow.
It's unairable for things I can't even tell you. He's the craziest human who's come through, and he's lovely. He only wants everyone around him to have the greatest time. Well, this is why he's like world famous in the hostile game, because all he wants to do is go. I don't care who's in this room. We're gonna have fun. Let's go. Now his idea of fun is sometimes weird, but it's the same way like people used to walk on like hot coals and then they feel like, oh, I did it. You know, like he will make you earn your. Oh my God, life is incredible. He makes you feel like life is fleeting and it's incredible in a varying amount of ways.
The great thing about Ronsky is that if you are like not interested, there is no peer pressure. Everyone's like, oh my God, he's just like, everyone has to do it. I'm like, no, if you say, I'm not doing shots, I'm not
He's
doing
fine.
lemon eyes, I'm not getting waterboarded, it's like, yeah, cool, whatever. He doesn't fucking give a shit. But at the same time, he'll go to Poland and buy 40 litres of Saplica vodka so that he can come here and share it with you. Like he's just...
And he wants nothing. You pay for nothing.
Yeah.
Here you go. I have 40 bottles of vodka. Come and drink with me. Done. Oh, you don't want to? You don't have to. No big deal.
Yeah.
There's no way to get people to volunteer to be waterboarded except to offer, and then they accept. You can't convince someone to be waterboarded or to have their hair chopped off with an axe in public.
That's a good one.
You can only suggest it, and then they love you so much and they trust you and they go, I'm fucking in.
Even if
And
they
I've seen
do
him
a terrifying
waterboard
video.
tons of people and chop the hair off of tons of people just so that they
an
can
axe.
say they did
Yeah.
with an axe in the middle of a public
on
bar,
concrete.
or to drip lemon juice in your eyes after you drink vodka, or after you drink tequila, because it's called lemon eyes.
Testicles.
What?
Tasering people in the testicles.
Tasering people in the testicles. I haven't seen that per se, but I would not doubt it whatsoever. It's funny, he makes the absurd seem okay, and then when you're done, it's almost like we survived this together. You know?
Wow.
I don't know what it feels like to come out of a prison camp with someone, but he gives the people something like that, I would assume. I can't tell you. There's been so many times I would be at Retox, and he'd be like, Smike, I gotta waterboard this guy here. Is it okay? And I'm like, does everyone in the bar know that this is okay and that they want to do this? I don't want to scare anyone. He's like, yep, I told everyone. I did shots with everyone. I'm like, and I would go, everyone okay with this? We're going to waterboard this guy? Yep. You're all very okay with this. Great. All right, waterboard him. Waterboard the guy. He'd get up and he'd have that moment like he was baptized. And he would hug Ronsky, and you could tell, fuck, dude, he's going to talk about this for the rest of his life. And it's positive. It's a good thing. He's like, I don't know what it's like. It's a bit of a
Ash
Fight
story.
Club kind of a situation,
yeah.
where they almost execute that guy and go, the next meal he's going to have is the greatest meal he's ever
meal,
had.
yeah.
Tomorrow's going to be the greatest day of his life.
Yeah.
Ronsky gave that to a lot of people. He is world famous for this. Mostly,
Where's he from?
He's Australian, isn't he?
Australia, Israel.
Australia, Israel, yeah.
Yeah.
he spent a lot of time in the hostels in Israel, a lot of time here, a lot of time in Poland, a lot of time in the Czech Republic. He's world known. Hey, listen, you look. I don't know if you can look up Ronsky on Google and find him, but
You probably- yeah, if you-
wouldn't be surprised.
I'd imagine it. I mean, like, starting with if you can spell his name right, because it's not spelled the way that you think it is.
I don't want to put too much on him. I really don't want people like going to like find him out. He's an incredible guy. If you meet him, great, and if you don't, maybe there'll
Big
be a
heart,
Ronsky in
big
your life.
heart.
Yeah, he's a huge heart. There's crazy people who take from the game, which we talked about earlier. He gives way more than he takes. That is hostiling. Giving more than you get. What you get is based solely on how much you give. It's a beautiful reciprocal
pass it
game
on,
if you do it the right way. If you don't do it the right way, it's easy to see that person and cut them out and move away from them because you're here for the wrong reasons.
Wow.
Who are the most memorable people that you've had to kick out for this reason of taking more than what they give, or just fucking shit up in one way or the other? What are the most memorable kickouts that you've seen from Retox?
Can I fucking tell the story?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
please. Come on, talk.
When we arrested the wrong guys,
Oh, by the way, egg on my face already. I did this. We arrested the wrong guys because of me. Go ahead. Suze.
Go on, Suze, go on. Tell us the story.
party boat,
Huh?
right?
Oh, yeah.
Some dude like smashes some guy in the face. Like there's a whole egg on his face. Like, oh my god, it's fucked up. So we go back and we throw these dudes out, and it's fine. And this is when it was in November, obviously, because around that time, because this guy's like, yeah, all right, Mr. Mustachio to Smike, because he has fucking mustache. Like, cool, whatever, fuck you guys. And then the next day, what the fuck was it for?
I kicked 2 guys out.
Because it's been creepy. They've been creepy.
I don't know why we were originally going to kick them out. They're being creepy. They're being two dudes. But what I definitely remember about it, I went up to the room and I'm like, you gotta go. And I watched them. And then I sent my boy Stripper up.
Crusty.
No. I sent Stripper to watch them, I think. They said, make sure like they don't fuck anything up, blah, blah, blah. And then as soon as they left, we kicked them out. And I'm like, can you go check the room, please? And he went up there and he came down and he's like, I don't know how I missed it. I'm like, what do you mean? So they took a shit on the top of the, like on the toilet seat, right? So if you put the whole seat down, you have the flat bit. They took a shit on that, and then they smashed it against the back, and they kept it up, so you couldn't see it. It basically stuck. But when you pull it down, obviously there's shit everywhere. And this kid, Krusty, is like first week. He went up, and all he does is he had like a visceral reaction to shit. So like I was like, sorry man, you're fucking new fish. Let's go up there. So I videotaped him, and he went into the room, and the whole thing was like, oh, and he cleaned the shit. He cleaned all the poop, but he almost vomited the whole time. But again, back in the day, earn your keep. And he did it, and then we kicked the guys out, and
everything's fine. So the next day, I'm doing a. You guys don't know enough pubs in the city. I want you to know all of the like cool small bars. So I'm doing a renegade pub crawl. Take everyone out on this renegade pub crawl. Not everyone, like there's a few of us. And I'm outside the pub having a smoke. I smoked at the time. And this lad comes by and he's asking me the directions to a pub. I'm like, yeah, down there. And as I'm giving directions, I'm like, that's that fucking dude. That fucking shit splat dude, right?
Shit
What
splat.
the fuck, right?
Shit splatter.
So he leaves, goes across the road. Him and his other buddies, I shit you not, they get a car and they flip it over. I'm like, what the fuck? So they flip this car. I'm like, it doesn't matter. I know who the fuck this guy is. We can get him. So these undercover cops come out of nowhere. They're like, who was that? La, 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 la. Can you give a statement? I'm like, yep, I've got this. I call Smike. I'm like, who are those dudes? He gives me the names. I'm like, it's cool. They're not staying with us. We've kicked them out. They're probably at Wombats. I call our friend Stickler, Lauren. She knows somebody who's working at Wombats. They're probably staying there. They check them. They're staying there. It's all good. In the middle of the night, long story short, they get them. They arrest them. 4 a.m. Fucking sweet. CSI, case closed. I'm like, I'm so exhausted, but it's really, really good. The next day, we're at brunch for our good friend Needle Dick, another name.
Another name.
Needle Dick's birthday.
self-named.
Self-named. Fuck him. He was so hard, I was not gonna. We get to brunch, and I'm talking, I'm like, oh, isn't it so good that we like arrested those guys? And Lyd, our other friend, she's like, that's not those guys. They're the guys that we kicked out from the boat. Huh? What? I'm sorry, what? I'm so fucking tired. I haven't slept at all. And she's like, that's the other. I'm like, fuck. So I put down my 30 quid, whatever. I'm like, I've got to go back to the cop shop. I go back there. I'm like, hey, I know you haven't slept. I haven't slept either. Everything about my story is right apart from the names I gave you. I need to give you different names. She's like, that's not how it works, right? Again, case closed the other way. They fucking got away with it. And they were dickheads from Penrith Panthers. So...
Penrith Panthers.
Rugby players.
But I would like to say the dudes that shit and smashed it, street justice. They spent some time in prison.
Yeah, the chick said to me, she's like,
the wrong
why
dudes.
did you think it was these? And then I happened to show the video of poor Krusty like having to mop that shit. I'm like, to be fair, they did this. Fair enough. But I still had to pay for fucking
That is street
flight.
justice.
So I didn't. She's brought the story up for the past 10 years, and I never feel bad. Fuck those dudes.
Street justice.
Fuck the street justice.
Seriously, yeah, no, anyone who would do that to the walls of a place where they're staying, where other people are living afterwards, same night, next night, whatever, someone's got to clean it up. Anyone who does that deserves to spend a night in jail. if only to sit and think really hard about what they may or may not have done.
I'd like to
Bulgarian prison one night is enough.
I'd like to
Oh
think,
yeah, I wouldn't wish any more on that on my worst
I'd
enemy.
like to
honestly.
think at
Fish,
one point
fish,
during
fish.
the night they were like, shouldn't have smashed that shit. Shouldn't have done that.
Should have left a note.
Yeah. Should have.
Guys, before we wrap up, because you got to go to a trivia. You got to
Yeah.
run a trivia soon, Suze.
Yeah, I got to run a trivia.
You got to write a trivia.
I mean,
write
like, it's gonna be
themselves.
like the 101st
easy.
trivia you've written in your life. You'll be fine.
That's right,
You'll be
I'm
fine.
taking his.
But so we said that we were gonna kind of like try and wrap up by talking a little bit, not just about the past of Retox, but also like right now it's hard to envisage any kind of a future for Retox. Obviously, you know the lease on the property got let go in November. So October 31st, we celebrated a beautiful and very, very tear-filled last night at Retox, which unfortunately also had to come to a very abrupt end at 11 p.m. due to the curfew rules in Budapest at the time. It was fucking tragic. Seeing everyone, you know, walk out of that place like so early on in the night when like everyone would happily be in there throughout the night and into the morning, and you know, like be dragged kicking and streaming at 2 p.m. the next day if they had to. But unfortunately, politically, that's just not what allowed for it. But if you were to be presented with the opportunity to restart Retox in a new location, somewhere else here in Budapest, how do you feel like it would have to be different? How would you make it different? And in what ways do you think it would have to take on a slightly different form just based on
The world that is now.
the world that is now, the culture that is now, you know, like different pressures and movements here within Budapest, you know, leading one way or the other, and sort of a growing resistance towards everything and all the mayhem that party tourism brings to the city. We've seen a lot of that recently.
I think there's several things about this. One is the party hostels are unaffected by COVID, right? Like the
Yeah.
people who want to party, they want to party. And the more you tell them you can't do this, the more they want to do that. So in terms of the Retox motion, people want to be a part of it. So whenever this can happen, people want to be there. And more so than ever, they want to be with each other, they want to be closer, they want to be, I'm not saying drinking pee with amaretto in it, but they want to be, you know, as close as they can be. Legally, it'll be interesting to see what happens in Budapest. You know, you just made a story about the Retox last night being the pubs open till 11 o'clock. Now we're not even, the pubs are not open and it's 8 p.m. curfew. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. With regards to the city, there's a big discussion with the 7th District and what's going to happen with the legalities of the midnight curfew and blah, blah, blah. No one knows what's going to happen with that. Stag groups, I think, need to be controlled, and I think that before the curfew came in, there was a wonderful sweet period in the break between the lockdowns where there was no groups, some kind of rule. I don't remember what it was, but it was good. It was like, don't have too many people out at the same time in a group, and I think we were guilty of definitely taking up to 400 people out on a night out, whatever. We can break that up, you know? We can have...
I mean, as long as it's not like down in the city downtown. Well, the nights when we would have that would be boat parties, right?
Sure, and pub crawls and
Yeah, but
Mondays
pub crawls
and
would be like
Wednesdays.
split up
You
in
know,
different groups, you know?
No, not really.
These
No,
are-
no.
oh, okay.
I think definitely I really respect the fact that we did rule the city for a long time, and it was beautiful and it was awesome, but it was noisy. And when things come back open, if there's a Retox similar situation, it should be more respectful with the community and with the neighbourhood. But also the neighbourhood should be fucking grateful that things are open and there's some money in the economy. You know, let's appreciate each other and say, scratch your back, you scratch my ones.
I mean, I think that there's going to be less resistance to tourists overall within the city when things do open back up, because we have spent this, you know, the better part of a year suffering under the death grip of this virus and you know all the restrictions and the massive, you know, financial economic impact that it has had, you know, like for a country that relies so heavily on tourism. We're talking about like what 10 to 15% of our GDP comes from tourism and all of its offshoots. You know, you take that away from a city and that's a huge impact. And so I think a lot of people have kind of started to realize that, you know, tourism is important. And so There will be far less, and I think that we're seeing this, like, not just here in Hungary, but, you know, across Europe, like countries like Barcelona, cities like Barcelona that have had riots against tourism are starting to kind of cotton on to the fact that, okay, tourists aren't bad per se. We just need to make sure that they can come and enjoy themselves within, you know, within the confines of what's healthy for our society as well. You know, there has to be a little bit of give and take. As you said, don't take more than you give. You know, as much as you give to a city, we're willing to give back to you as well, but let's both respect each other. And so, yeah, this is where I think that, you know, the future of party tourism, when things do restart, once tourism restarts, like party tourism as a niche specifically, because, as you said, it is the most resilient, it is the most boisterous, it is the most entitled a lot of the time of all the sectors of tourism, because as soon as you give people alcohol, copious amounts of alcohol, you know, they grow bigger and stronger and, you know, braver than any other person out there. And you know, you do that within a country that's not their own, where they feel like they can be a different version of themselves, you know, even more so. And so I think this is what has contributed to the toxic nature sometimes of party tourism. And so for me, it's really interesting to think about, you know, imagine a version of party tourism here in Budapest, and stag groups coming to Budapest, hen groups, whatever, rugby groups, like any large groups, whether it's like people traveling together or just meeting at a hostel and then going out on a pub crawl together, still doing that, but with sort of like a renewed sense of respect and adoration for the places that they are visiting. Now, having experienced what it's like to not be able to visit other countries, do you think that there's a chance that it might help actually instill this respect and this admiration, this venerance for the fact that you are in another country? This is a gift. It's not
a playground.
It's not a play. It's not a right. It's a gift for you to be able to be here and experience this. Don't take it away from us again.
I would love that.
I think,
It'd be nice when
honestly, and maybe this is the trend, I would hope so, is smaller sizes. I think the only way to have better, more thoughtful people is to have smaller groups.
Yeah.
So I think we've talked in the past, the perfect size hostel is 40, 50 beds, no bigger. It's a group that you can feel like you're together, but also can have that respect level. You know, a 400 person pub crawl doesn't give two turtle shits about anything.
Yeah.
5 people who are bound together and don't really know each other have to stick together and be respectful of everything. And also they have to be polite because their number is small. So I think small numbers could be the future. I would like to see smaller hostels, you know, win, because I think the tourists win in that situation, and I think the people who live in the city who don't want to hear all the noise and everything, I think they win. I think this is always going to be an incredible city, but no matter how divided you are, when you take the number down to a small enough, you know, if it's 1v1, I don't care how different you are, you can find a way. I met a guy whose grandfather was a grand wizard in the KKK.
Wow.
And he was from the South, and he said, I'm going to go to Europe only because I have to see if this is real. Like, is this how everyone feels? And he came to Europe and he said, I realized pretty immediately, like, that's absolute bullshit. That's ridiculous. When I would meet people and I would talk about, like, what I was growing up with and they'd give me their experiences, I realized. And a big part of that was that he didn't have this entire, like, KKK family behind him to just, like, spout from the pulpit and say the same bullshit. You know, you get indoctrinated wherever you're from. But when you're by yourself, oh man, that you know, you're called to question for everything you say. So I think small groups is the future. I hope that, I don't know how a city would do that, but I think small groups would be fantastic. But I don't want to lose the community. You know, I think that obviously Airbnb has given everyone an opportunity to have their own private place and stuff, but you have no community. Where's the opportunity to meet someone from a completely different part of the world who doesn't think like you, and to be able to have a discussion where you don't want to kill each other, where you really want to know how they feel, and then ask them the right questions. You know, like, I love meeting people who don't believe in the same things I do, partially because if I feel strongly about it, I want to continually ask to either have them change their mind, you know, hang themselves with their own words because they're faulty thinking, or give me something I don't know. You know, like, why else would you travel? That's it. We always say different cultures and different ways of living. Well, there it is. You know what I mean? So smaller numbers. That's what I'd like to see. I think that's the future of hosteling. But I don't think alienating yourself from other people. I don't think having your own flat and then trying to meet people in the city is going to work, because where is the arena going to be made where you can walk up to anyone and say, hey, where are you from?
Yeah.
And not feel like you're going to get your head bitten off. Because I'll tell you, like, I'm from the United States. You can't just walk up to someone in a bar and say that.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Mm.
But if
You
you're
need
taking
that
in a
space.
hostel that has a bar, that's a free space. My friend Ian Rutledge, 60 years old, can walk up to a girl's AT and say, hey, where you from? You want a shot? And you know what? She doesn't think he's a creep. He might not even have a shirt
Yeah.
on. She goes, oh, yeah, he's staying here.
Yeah.
So he's okay. I'm going to tell him my story. Maybe they become friends. Small group, arena, a chance to talk.
Yeah.
Because we figure a lot of things out in these small places. I hope that's where it goes.
Let's hope so.
What does it mean to be free? Last thing
Last
before you guys go.
I think for me, it's whatever you were told you had to be growing up, like by society, by religion, by school, by whatever. It's to go, I can do all of those things, but I don't have to. And I think this being free is like when so many people find when you come here, it's like, I can just be myself, free of judgment. And the only thing you get judged for is when you break these rules of respect, when you don't play by the rules of, we are here as guests, you know, we're all foreigners here, so play by the fucking rules. And when you break that, that's the only thing you get judged for. Other than that, I don't
Everything
give a
else.
shit if you've got black fucking nails and you know, whatever, like you're wearing a dress as a boy, you know, you're blowing that dude in the pub. I don't really care. I'm probably blowing that dude in the pub as well, so it doesn't matter. But the thing is, just to make sure that, you know, you're not judging people only just on the, you know, their values and their authenticity and generosity of spirit. I think give back. You said.
Yeah, I think authenticity is great, right? But I don't think people know their authentic self until they pretend to be everyone else first.
Wow.
You know, I pretended to be a lot of people before I came to Budapest, and I remember, I think it was, I can't remember the exact moment, but I'm pretty sure I was probably singing karaoke next to Suze, thinking, yeah, this is me. And
What
Remember
song
the
were you
song?
singing? Oh, it was a song.
man, I don't know. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter
Because
because I
that
think
was the moment. You were like,
well,
this
I
is
can't.
me.
I can't pinpoint it. I can't, but I can definitely. You know, I know. We all come from somewhere, right? And I don't know what hometowns everyone has, but sometimes there's expectations. You grow up with that, right? I knew, like I left the United States when I was 27. I knew what everyone thought of me at home. I come from a small town, 70,000 people, smallish. Everyone in my town knows my name and what that means about me, right? Like, you can't just suddenly be something else. I came to Europe, I could be whoever I wanted. And I tried a lot of different things. I really did. I tried to be super cool. I smoked a pipe for a while, you know, like I tried to be
was
the
cool.
cool guy. Yeah, I thought it was super cool. You know, like I did everything to be cool and to be liked and to show value, because I think everyone does that, because everyone wants to feel like they belong. And I felt like I belonged when I moved here. And I couldn't tell you why, but I think it's like when you fall in love, or when you find the right job, or when you're in the right place. You don't know why you know it, but you know it. And then at that point, it's just like, it's wiggle room. It's like, okay, I got the right pair of jeans. Let me like work them in so that they fit me perfectly for the rest of my life. And ever since, I've just tried to be a little bit more myself every single day. And I have incredible friends who are supportive, and I realized I didn't have that when I was at home. And that's why I never felt like I could do things. So, you know, freedom is the ability to try on as many hats as you have to until you find the one that fits. And for the people that are around every time, no matter how many hats doesn't look good on you, they go, yeah, okay. And then when the one gets it, and you know it, and they know it, they go, hey, nailed it. That's the one. So, yeah.
I reckon that's the best way to wrap up, babe.
Sorry?
That was the best way to wrap up. I reckon that was beautiful.
That was-
From both
yeah.
of you guys.
That was a really, really beautiful answer. I wasn't expecting these answers at all.
Wow.
I would never have thought to describe freedom that way, but
What's your answer?
My answer. What does it mean?
If you have something
Jesus.
you're expecting,
They're asking
was
us
that?
questions,
I mean,
yes.
as you
We
said,
didn't
going-
prepare for this.
No, as you said going into the podcast, we don't really have expectations. You know, we came up with these questions wondering what you guys were going to say, not really having any expectations or any thoughts. We weren't, making these questions to try and prompt you to say something that we thought a story that we wanted you to share. We just honestly really wanted to hear the first thing that comes out of your minds. This is why we didn't share these questions with you ahead of time, which, to be fair, in hindsight, maybe this podcast would have been a little bit more structured and a little, kept on topic a little bit more if we'd shared these.
To be honest, I don't think
questions with you
I
ahead of
don't
time.
mind the non-structured way. In fact, I think it's
no.
flowed really well. Seriously.
Oh, no.
I don't want it to be
absolutely.
robotic kind of question
No.
Q&A type shit.
I was
So
simply,
no
I was simply stating a fact. And this is the beauty of candidness of doing things this way. It's just throwing questions out there, not knowing what you're going to say.
mean to you, Yasmin?
What?
What does freedom mean to you?
yeah.
What does
Yeah,
freedom
so-
mean to me?
Thanks. I'm on the edge of my seat.
What does freedom mean to me? Off the top of my head, I'd say freedom is when you don't really fear the future. When you don't fear the repercussions of your actions. Freedom is just acting without bottling yourself up, thinking, oh, but what happens if this? What happens if that? Freedom is just living life spontaneously, doing what feels right, doing what makes you happy, and being like, you know what will be, and it's all going to be gravy.
I love gravy.
I love gravy too.
Oh.
Especially when it's
Doesn't
homemade.
like gravy.
Who doesn't love gravy?
Vegans.
Personally, the road is freedom for me. The road, the journey, the travel, and to be whoever you want to be in any place you go, to be able to reboot that, and to, like you said, Smike, in a way, just try on these different personalities, but know that you can be whoever you want without the confines of where you're from. And yeah, to have no fear of what's coming, and to embrace what's happening in the moment. I think that's true freedom. And I think I never stayed at Retox, but I could imagine that everyone who went there, who walked in through those doors and realized that they're not going to be judged, and they could be whoever they've wanted to be, whether in fantasy or in their true selves, that they had a space that they could do that without anyone who knew them before eyeing them and judging them. I think if you guys created that space for people to do that consciously, and you came up with those words for a reason, then you've given a lot of people insight into themselves. And I love the idea that they've walked away from that place really kind of discovering what sense of freedom really means. So yeah, thank you guys for that, for those people.
Thank you.
And thank you for
that.
coming on
Thank you for
here.
this.
And yeah, and sharing. I mean, God, I feel like we only just scratched the surface of the stories that come from
yeah, no,
Retox. I feel like we could do this every week,
We were like, we're gonna do a really, really nice, short history and future kind of thing at Retox, and it's gonna be cool. We're gonna keep it up down to an hour.
Impossible.
We've done 2 times 1 hour, and I'm like, I want to do more. There's so many more stories to uncover. There's so many more memories to delve into. But maybe we'll do a series of write-ups.
Who do you reckon? Just before you go, who do you reckon would be good to come on the podcast to continue talking about Retox? Who would you invite?
Rio.
Well,
I would-
Morpheus.
I would second
people
both
that
of those.
none of them are here.
Cyclops.
None of them are here. Cyclops, who I
Cyclops
did my
for sure.
first podcast with,
Yeah.
he'd be brilliant to bring on because he knows the format. And he's got it all. He got all the stories. So if you can get him here from Canada,
Isn't this like a microphone in the screen? Or
We
some
could-
shit?
we could
Are not,
possibly.
on the,
yeah. If you want to do a remote one,
Yeah, we could.
I can hook it up. He would absolutely do it.
Yeah.
But there's a long list.
There's so many
too
people,
long.
and it seems insulting the amount of stories we told. Like, what's your best day? Oh, when Stripper was fucking mopping the wall. Like, oh fuck, I've got no idea. But there's so many people that could contribute so much.
Yeah,
And
it didn't scratch the surface, like you said. Like, there's thousands of people who made Retox
Yeah.
and BPH what it is. Thousands. It's not an exaggeration. Thousands. They can't all be listed here. They can't all be named every single time, and they can't all be remembered correctly.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of this thing. It's an oral tale. It's the thing we tell each other. I've done podcasts. We tell stories all the time. Is the story the same every time? Of course it's not.
Yeah.
Of course it's not. No one remembers it. You know why? We were hammered. I remember the feeling. I remember the love. I remember the danger. We remember those big sensory things. There was so many people that made everything happen. Anyone who ever listens to this, if you weren't named, you were still a part of it. Even if you just stayed and you didn't meet any of the staff, you were a part of it. It's an organism. It's a family. It's tens
Tribe.
of thousands of people. It is, and every one of them move it 1 inch forward. They all are a part of it. This isn't a Suze thing. This isn't a Smike thing.
No,
this isn't no one person, no 10, 20, no 100 people did this. It's everyone over the course of 10 years. It's a gigantic undertaking that you could never see from day one. And you know what? From day one was like, let's have fun and let's bullshit and let's shoot from the hip and let's make sure everyone has a great time and feels safe and they love each other. Boom. And if you do that from day one to day 10,000, you're still doing it right.
Wow.
And that was it.
Wow. Guys, thank you. Suze, I know how reluctant you were to come on.
Yeah, still
It's
am.
amazing. You got her. She never came on my podcast. I'm so upset. You
Did you have fun? Was
You
it a-
did it.
Maybe edited me out.
Well, I hope that we're going to see you back another time because there are so many topics that we would love to delve in with you because you are just a fountain of really, really well thought out ideas, and it's really, really,
Beautiful.
really, really, as you know, displayed by everything that you've done in the industry, in the hostel industry. You know, you are a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
In many, many ways, and it's been an honor having you as a
An
guest
honor.
on our first ever Hoffcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for inviting us. It's really, really humbling.
And Smike, thank you.
And
Thank you as
Smike,
well.
thank you so much. You're a podcast veteran, you know, so it wasn't too difficult to get you out on this one. But
I
like
love
honestly,
this
the stories that you guys shared and the insights you guys shared, it was really, really cool to listen to, and I hope that everyone listening to this so far has felt the same way. And I hope that we can have you guys back again sometime to talk about some more cool thoughts and ideas. But for now, we're gonna wrap it up.
Yeah, we'll wrap up.
And
Oh, we just passed 111. That's a good sign, babe.
Yeah, 111.
111.
It's half a season two.
Numbers.
All right, guys. Well, we're
right.
releasing this at some point, and
Yeah.
do we have next week scheduled, or do we have any idea what's happening next week?
Oh, we do have it scheduled, but we're not going to give it away just
No,
yet.
not yet.
We're not going to give it away
Yeah.
just yet. And we will be releasing this at some point. I guess if you're listening to it right now, that means that we've already released it. So I hope you're enjoying this. And tune back in next week. If we do manage to keep the schedule and release it every week like we plan to, that is our plan. So watch this space and come back next week and hear some more wonderful people with wonderful insights and stories sharing their opinions and views and their soul on our wonderful machine.
Thank you, Suze. Thank you, Smike.
Thank you, Suze. Thank you, Shmike.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
having us.
everyone, for listening.
All right,
And we'll
guys.
check back with you next week. Bye.
Bye.